Welcome everybody to the Climate Action Committee meeting for March 5th. And I wanted to see if I could get somebody to take notes tonight, to take minutes. We've been rotating that. And
Since I'm going away tomorrow. I really can't.
okay. Yeah. You're good. Okay, Karen Gibson will take notes. And we have, I think we have 6 committee members here, myself, Karen Gibson, Jen Miller, Cheryl Bagan, Gavin Colbert on Zoom, Jerry, Frankel on Zoom. And is there one more on Zoom? No, there's not. So let's get going. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from 2 previous meetings. And because I don't think we did January's last month.
We could be lost.
And I read them through today. Now, these ones, did you do them, Karen? Or did you do them? Yes, okay. They were perfect, but I didn't know what HOA was under public comments.
Homeowners Association?
Homeowners associations. Okay, got it. So let's just turn that into a non-acronym, then we're good. I mean, what? We don't have one of those, so I don't know what that. Maybe everybody else knows. Did anybody else see any issues with the January minutes?
No.
Who would like to make a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the January 9th CAC meeting minutes? Say aye. Aye. Raise your hand. Zoom. Jerry, you can vote.
I'm abstaining. I don't think I was at the meeting,
Okay,
or if I was, I don't remember, so I think it's best I'll abstain.
almost unanimous approval. And then last month we had, Gavin did the minutes. And sent them around. And they look fine. My only comment is the format. I want to change the format to say minutes rather than agenda and stuff, and that's a format change.
Okay. Yep.
I didn't see anything substantive. Did anybody else see anything on the February minutes?
Yes, I did. The attendees are missing. I didn't see any attendees.
Good idea. And now, do we remember who was there?
That one, I remember that much.
All of us.
I can check on the recording. It's no problem. Sorry, I forgot to include that header.
Okay. Make it almost perfect. And we'll get those submitted.
Can I move to approve the minutes with that amendment? Second.
Yes. Is that all in favor of approving the February minutes?
There's amended, yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
So Brad, I don't know if you wanted to mention that there was some last minute changes to the agenda, so
Yes.
I don't know if everybody
right.
knew that, so it might be.
Right, so, we added, a couple of items to the agenda this, today. I was not too late. Following the director's update, we're gonna talk, briefly about a committee letter to Mass Department of Transportation about the Route 2 corridor traffic study. And also a memo to the select board to request affirmative action on Article 31, which is the updated conversion goals, and we can talk about what they are when we get there. So we'll get to that around 7:20, which is, or we'll get to that when we get to it. So Eric, you sent an update and I actually didn't read your update, but, what would you like to summarize?
Well, I know we've got a lot on the agenda, so I don't want to take much time. I'll mention that the new town facilities director started the week before last. So I reached out to him. We already had a meeting. His name is Russ Carlstad. He's got
Russ also.
Carlstad, yeah,
With a K?
with a K. And he's got good background and experience in facilities management. He's LEED certified. He's seems to be very knowledgeable about energy efficiency and systems and all kinds of things that this committee and I'm interested in, which is great. So we talked a little bit about the need for the town to move forward with doing the energy audits on municipal buildings. So we kind of had an initial conversation about that. We've been exchanging some information since then, and we'll be meeting again soon to start coming up with a more detailed plan of action now that is in place, which is encouraging.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, there's the name right there. Yeah, so let's make a point of doing that.
And I did invite him to come to a meeting, and he said he'd be happy to do that. So maybe even as early as next month, we might just have him join us and he can introduce himself and
Work.
ask him a few questions. And, yeah, so, but he certainly indicated a willingness to meet the committee. So,
Great.
yeah.
And I hope he would be almost a regular. Although maybe he's got a lot to do. So there was, okay.
I mean, a number of these other things I think we're going to touch on in some of the other agenda items. But there was, I met with folks at Mothers Out Front and the Umbrella and a couple other organizations about planning an Earth Day celebration, which has happened in the past over at the library.
Yeah,
For April 20th, didn't happen last year for a number of reasons, but we're currently working on plans to have an event there again this spring. So hopefully we'll have some good participation from lots of different organizations and departments here in town and community members and everybody else. So I'll keep everybody updated on the progress with that. And then the only other thing I'll mention is that I don't know if you want to mention that Energy Sage meeting we had.
oh, yes,
But
well, I was hoping that Jake was gonna come and mention that he, canceled out at the last minute.
okay.
So
I didn't know if you wanted to-
I'll mention it, Jake, who works at Staples as the sustainability manager, they have a program with the company Energy Sage, which, it's a for-profit company. They are in the business of connecting people with contractors and helping them understand. They started with solar. You want to put solar on your house, you can go to energysage.com and describe your house, and you'll get one or more quotes from their vetted vendors. And they also are working with heat pumps and battery storage and other things, other technologies. So they're kind of a nice clearinghouse. The question is whether and to what extent Concord could use Energy Sage as a resource for residents. And I tend to think we could, as long as it's not a recommendation. They did their vetting, they have their policies, they shared their policies with us. The meeting included Jan Setti from the Light Plan, who is kind of one of our go-to people for a lot of this work. And we haven't had a follow-up meeting. My thought is one of the things we could work on in the next months or year is to really give residents a more comprehensive list of contractors for the main things, solar, heat pumps, you name it. But it has to be quite inclusive and open to anybody, and it has to be a procedure that the town procurement people are okay with. Now, the town procurement people by default are not okay with recommending a commercial company to do something, you know, without going through a rather extensive process, an open process. But I want to keep working on that. We need to follow a meeting, probably with Jan and stuff to figure out what next steps there are.
Where does their profit come from? The homeowners or the contractors? Their profits come from,
Their profits come from referrals. From the contractors that
the
do work.
contracts, okay.
And that's a very good
The
question.
homeowners or the contractors, okay.
That's a very relevant question, because, you know, it's sort of like where their bread is buttered depends, you know, really affects whether they are an appropriate resource. A lot of towns do recommend, do use, and a lot of the mass energized towns do list Energy Sage as, you know, you want to find out about solar, go to Energy Sage, you can get yourself a quote there. So it's okay with some people. I'm not sure if it's okay with
I remember
others.
a few years back, Jana Seppi was not terribly happy with, I mean, she wasn't very impressed by them, but no.
Right.
They have changed. I
There are new,
I just-
insurance
Wow.
company.
maybe they, I'm sure they're involved.
Right. So one of the, you know, a year ago and more, I put together a list of all the, I put on our Cooler Conference site as a draft, I put, all the heat pump contractors that are both, listed as vetted contractors, and those are, it's kind of an approved source for Concord.
Mhm.
And Amanda quickly disabled the page. She decided, you know, I don't even want to think about it because it's involves, you know, asking hard questions. So, but I'd like to revisit that. Because,
Isn't there a list somewhere of people who have done work in private homes in Concord? Isn't there a list somewhere?
there are lists like that. They have to be maintained. It has to be a live list and it has, you know. So I don't want to go into too much detail on the, it is something I do think we should work on because it's always one of the main questions homeowners, it's a real barrier to homeowners is like, how can I pick a contractor when usually my experience with contractors is negative? It's
Well, then you
always,
have the owners of the houses on the home choice.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason here is that while the CMLP has some, you know, 2 heat pump coaches who can help coach people specifically on heat pumps, there really aren't any designated solar coaches, so. I think we're sort of exploring this as a potential option to, you know, be able to provide people with, you know, good resources and information and access to, you know, get contracted when they're considering solar. I mean, obviously, there's some informal pathways that people could learn more about solar who are interested, but there aren't any sort of official solar coaching positions, if you will, in the town, so.
Okay,
So yeah, the only other thing I was gonna mention is that at the select board meeting last night, the select board endorsed Article 32, which is the fossil fuel free demo program amendments. So they
Yeah.
sort of voted on that and took action on that, so that's encouraging.
great job on that, on presenting it and, getting happy with that.
But that's all I had. I know we're probably at time here, so I mean, I'm happy to answer questions, but I think a lot of the other stuff, like you said, is probably gonna come up on the agenda.
Right. The next item on the agenda, which was added today, is the possibility of a letter to the Mass Department of Transportation. There was a Route 2 corridor traffic study, which I did not attend, but I think Gavin attended.
Mhm.
I nominated Gavin to tell us his impression of
Yeah,
that.
sure, definitely. And sorry, I didn't receive your email. I think you might be using a different email address for me. So, but I'm happy to talk about it now on the fly. So essentially, uh, MassDOT had two public meetings about improvements to Route 2 all along the corridor. So that was all the way out from like more western central Mass, from like Fitchburg area, all the way into right about around Lexington. And this had been a long-term study that had been conducted over the years that was aiming to study potential mitigation to improve safety and capacity of Route 2. So key for Concord, one of the areas of focus was the Route 2 rotary and how to improve it to reduce traffic, reduce cutting through on side streets, things like that. There are also on other parts of Route 2 in Concord, potentially adding a third lane in different areas. So this was a study conducted by the Highway Division of Mass DOT, and primarily this was from I'll add my opinion a little bit on this. This was a primarily car-centric view of how to alleviate traffic on Route 2 corridor. It wasn't a holistic study, and it was a very initial study for Mass DOT. So they had said, they caveated it that this was no project that was happening. This was just studying potentially in the future how the corridor could be improved. It did not take into account any let's say like investments in the MBTA on that same parallel Fitchburg line that could maybe take cars off the road to alleviate traffic. Instead, this was just how to change the roadway, and it didn't take into account either the MCI Concord closing. So overall, this was just as I understood it, it was more of a preliminary research study that talked about possible improvements, but based on public comments and Mass DOT's comments on the call as well, there would need to be a holistic study that took into account a lot more environmental concerns, a lot more alternative investments in public transit, in active recreation, like being able to get across Route 2 as a pedestrian, as a bicyclist. So I think it would be interesting to see where this goes, and this was just a preliminary study. And I think working with Laura Davis in town, who is the head of the transportation committee, she had definitely voiced that if Mass DOT is to really think and move on a project like this, that they need to do a more holistic study of what any improvements would mean to pedestrians, bicyclists, to local environmental air pollution, things like that, with a roadway expansion. And so we'll see where it goes. Let me know if you have any. I know you were involved maybe with it, Mark, as well on the transportation committee side, but that's what I took away from it.
Yeah, thank you, Gavin. I talked to Laura this morning, and she shared a letter with me, which I'd like to share with you, which we can modify if we wanted to make comments. So I'm going to share it on the screen and just quickly talk through it. I didn't have a chance to send it out beforehand. So you can see my screen here, but I'll have to make it bigger. We'll have to make it like 150%. And so there's a link. I'll share this to attendees and committee members. There's a link to the actual presentation now, which is online. This draft here is the letter that was drafted from Mothers Out Front to the select board. And it's such a good letter that I don't want to change it much, but I'd love to send it potentially adapt it, send it maybe together with the transportation committee basically says, you know, in response to these two hearings, they were asking that the select board advocate for more sustainable solutions to reducing congestion. And that they oppose any current or future proposals that would widen Route 2 based on the following concerns. Climate emissions, anything that addresses transportation but raises emissions should be a no-go. That's in my words. The transportation being the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, widening road, you know, thinking about making more pavement and more space for cars to go is not is contrary to our climate action plan goals. We want to lower emissions by drastically not raise them. Investing deeply in, as Gavin suggested, in transportation systems that encourage alternatives to personal vehicles is what they propose. You can read all the words. Induced demand is basically it's just enhancing the fact that if you build more road, more cars are going to go on the road. And in fact, it's been shown in many previous projects that when you widen the road, you just get more cars and you find yourself a few years down the road with the same problem you've had. So within a few years, nearly all highways that undergo widening return to previous levels of congestion, but with more vehicles. Again, it's a, and then Gavin also mentioned increased risk to vulnerable road users. That is, it's already a challenge to get across that road on a bicycle. Making it wider doesn't make that challenge any easier. It makes it more difficult. So we're talking about pedestrians and cyclists, and the fact that this road divides our town in half, which is a problem as it is. And it talks about, so some of this is very Concord-centric, more appropriate for the select board, but some of it is very germane to send to the Department of Transportation and say, Laura, and I agree after talking to her, even though I didn't go to the presentation, thought this was really misguided what they were describing. And that it was an attempt to do things very inexpensively. And if you know, my view is Massachusetts is a real transportation problem because we don't know how to do big projects. And to try to go the cheap way to make the highway bigger is something our committee probably should oppose.
I agree.
And
And
so,
Massachusetts doesn't know how to run public transport.
right. What is anybody else's impressions so far? And
I think Mark has his hand up.
Mark has his hand up. Mark.
So I just thought I'd quickly mention that the select board did actually approve a letter of our own to MassDOT about the traffic study. It was part of last night's packet. It was on the consent agenda, and it picked up on a lot of the same things that have already been mentioned about, you know, the problems created for safety with widening and the fact that it wasn't very comprehensive in terms of local needs. And we asked that MassDOT reevaluate the conceptual design and phases taking into account new information. So we're already responding to that, and we took the input of the transportation committee to help us with some of the points.
That are being drafted.
It was approved last night. If you look at the select board packet from March 4th, it's pages 6 and 7 of that are the letter that we approved.
And Do you think it would be more effective for us to have our own letter or to sign on to the select board letter, or is that not enough?
I honestly don't know. I suppose, you know, more is probably better. I just thought I'd mention that we did act on that.
Okay. So, Gavin, what are your thoughts?
I guess I might just quickly add that our impression is that MassDOT, like almost everybody else, was taken somewhat by surprise by the MCI Concord closure announcement, and therefore they understand that creates opportunities and needs for reevaluation too. So I don't think we're certainly not in any kind of real adversarial or conflicted position with them. I think everybody knows that we need to look at this in the light of new information.
Also, it was interesting that Pamela Dritt, 13 Concord Green. It was also interesting that I heard Michael Barrett talk, our senator, about the pressure that he's getting from communities that are further, north or west on Route 2, about the congestion getting through Concord, specifically the Rotary, and that really needs to be addressed. And there needs to be a way for through traffic to go through without stopping at the Rotary. And there isn't now. And if that means we have to widen it, we'll have to do that. The future public transportation is going to be a bunch of autonomous electric vehicles using the roads anyway. I don't think the idea of not widening our roads or improving our road system on purpose to inhibit vehicle transport is a viable idea. We need to do it better, not necessarily wider, but also not necessarily not wider.
Thanks for your comment, Pamela. Yeah, I think if I can editorialize here, I think that's a good point, Mark, what you said about MCI Concord wasn't involved in, like, the closure wasn't involved in any of the planning. So any of the Rotary plans from MassDOT didn't incorporate that. But I think there is a worry, especially as a climate action committee, if we want to push for more housing in town that's denser, it's more environmentally sustainable because of that, and that's within walking distance of the MBTA. I think we should keep an eye out for if MassDOT wants to take that land to build a highway. I think that runs counter to a lot of our goals in the climate action plan, and particularly like just even being adjacent to an expanded highway or a highway overpass or something like that. Although I do understand why people, especially west of town, would be frustrated that there's a lot of congestion going through the Concord Rotary. I think that there's two different solutions.
I'd like to suggest that I haven't heard anyone talk about the kind of solutions that we have on Storrow Drive with an underpass, which would allow the same kind of things that we've got on top to stay. But if we had an underpass, one lane underpass, that got the through traffic through that Rotary, that would be a great idea and probably cheaper than, for example, flyovers.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's a lot of different ideas, and I thought there was a great public comment section on the MassDOT. So yeah, lots of strong opinions on this. But yeah, I think Brad, I think that sounds good. If there is already a letter at the select board, as Mark mentioned, I think of the climate action committee, we don't want to be repetitive. If we back more of a unified force coming from the town so that the state can see that, signing on as a committee, I think that would be smart.
So we don't have to rush on this. Maybe we should read what the select board wrote.
Yeah.
And have a final draft a month from now.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Maybe if you can send out more resources on it, Brad, we can talk about it next meeting. Discuss.
Okay.
There's I don't think, maybe I missed it. that there's anything about the MBTA commuter rail, which parallels, from Fitchburg
Right,
through, enhancing that service would relieve Route 2. And if you add capacity at the rotary, there's going to be a traffic jam further down.
right.
I mean, Alewife was the obvious one, but, I've certainly seen, holdups and, especially at the crossing of 126.
Right,
So, you're not solving anything by improving the road, you're just shifting the problem further down the road.
right. So I can appreciate why people don't like driving through Concord on Route 2. That's pretty obvious.
I mean, yes,
And
that's.
Pamela's ideas or doing something, taking the time to do it right. Because we would, if people were able to drive at an appropriate speed through Concord, the emissions would be less. However, widening it to get more cars is questionable.
Right, but I think,
So let's think of
I
some
think
more.
the Department of Transportation needs to consider other forms of transportation. And improving the rail service should be one of those considerations.
So let's draft something. I don't know if Kevin wants to be involved in drafting, or if I want to draft it, and you can, and get people's comments into it, so that next month we'll do something that's not redundant and well thought out.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, Jerry.
Yeah, I'd like to raise a bit of an issue or a question about potential design solutions around the rotary. An underpass was mentioned, an overpass was mentioned. It occurred to me from a sustainability or vulnerability perspective, I'm not sure I know which one would be more advantageous or less advantageous. And so it got me thinking that somewhere in the design process, somebody, whether it's someone at DOT or maybe it's our committee, someone needs to give them some inputs about what a more resilient intersection would look like there.
Okay, so it seems to me that we would, in order to do that right, you have to model something based on a set of assumptions.
Yeah.
And maybe the assumptions should not be increasing traffic volume. But the assumptions should be consistent with the climate action plan and decide the technical options based on modeling. Is that right?
Well, no, I'm thinking about something different. For example, is it more likely an underpass will flood or more likely that an ice storm will make passage over the and over flyover less desirable? So, when doing this is kind of a vulnerability assessment before the fact. So if we knew, and I suppose someone does, maybe Paul Kirsten knows, if we knew what the likelihood that area would flood, given increased rainfall in the future, we could make a judgment call of how bad that is. Similarly, we could do the same thing with ice storms.
With ice storms, you just throw some sand down. And
Yeah, fair enough.
you know how to do that. But you're right, some thought has to go into this. Very good. So let's go on to the select board considering Article 31. And Mark Howell shared Eric shared the recording of the select board meeting that I watched. they considered all the articles for them. And on Article 31, which is arguably vague, it's our article. It has to do with strengthening the goals from Article 51 to be consistent with the state's greenhouse gas goals. And declaring a climate emergency. Actually, that was the first part of it. Now, those two parts are different. And there were comments made at the select board meeting about, I'm going to share again my notes. Well, I don't have to share that. There were the two comments which were made, one which was, who was it? Terry said, oh, what are the implications of declaring an emergency? An emergency is actually a thing. Does it have budget implications, et cetera? We can't tell you what the budget implications are, but we can, but in my view at least, it is, the emergency means everybody's got to be planning to do what is needed rather than some people. And strengthening the goals basically makes that clear that, you know, we have to be changing heating in all the buildings and addressing all the transportation, not just everybody else's. What Mary Hartman was asking for, which I think is the substantive ask, is to outline what steps are being taken to pursue the climate goals, which is basically, hey, where are we with respect to the climate action plan in terms of our emissions reduction? And what are the steps that are being taken by the town and asked of the town and its people to meet these goals? And I think that was a very fair ask.
Except we specifically chose not to include language like that because we hadn't done this since when we first looked at it, correct?
Right. No, she didn't say that we should include it in the language of the article.
Okay.
What she said is basically, we should be prepared to talk about it in order to justify why we should change numbers from one set of very difficult numbers to another set. I think that's fair. Mark, do you think I captured that fairly?
Yeah, I think the idea was, if we're going to set these intermediate targets, for example, which is we're going to pull in a 2030 target, which as I understand it doesn't exist, you know, sort of what's the implication of that for action? And really just the select board's just saying, okay, so we asked town meeting to do this, but what should town meeting expect is going to happen as a result of their of affirmative action here?
And I think we can describe that. I haven't written that up now, but I'm prepared to write that up and circulate it and get people's comments back and get it to the select board in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, we'll meet again on the 18th, so that's our, I think, last chance before the finance committee report gets published on the 20th.
Okay, before next, a week from this coming Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 week's time.
Okay.
And we can definitely do that. Now, one of the things that we need to be able to produce, I think if we can't report on emissions for town meeting, it makes it difficult to argue that we can meet any goals whatsoever. Now, Courtney has been working on that. She's not at tonight's meeting due to a personal conflict that came up. But I very much hope that we have numbers that we can present in March to the select board.
I think it's
Go into the memo.
potentially useful for the select board to be able to understand directionally what the change is. For example, even a sloped line that said, the previous goals would put us on this line, the new goals would put us on this different line, whether that's more aggressive, less aggressive, or the same, and then the intent is to measure against that line. I think that understanding why it's useful to be set up in the same way that the state is with respect to the goals, just some words along that, which is why I was suggesting that some kind of memo that just addresses those points that we could read, and then that could go into our packet, and we would then be able to use that as a basis of making a recommendation to town meeting.
Okay, and your packet goes on the Friday before?
Yeah, more or less. Earlier is better, but that's about the last date.
Okay,
Brad, can I just, so,
yeah,
I mean, part of our doing this, my recollection is we're also asking everyone in town, we're sort of making it aware to everybody in town, hey, this is an emergency, you all have to do your part. It's not just what we're anticipating, asking the buildings, the town buildings to be, we're asking everybody to step up. I mean, that is part of the intent of this.
yeah,
Not just us, it's to make sure everybody's on board as a town.
right,
There was a recent town, I think in Minnesota, where I think 90% of the houses all turned into heat pumps.
really,
Yeah, just so, so I mean, it's not just what we're asking, we're alerting everybody to the fact that we all have to do this. That's sort of to me, the emphasis of this.
and it may be that I suspect the news will be in the memo from a week from now, that it's not going fast enough.
Yeah.
Jenna, did you have a comment?
No.
Okay. So we'll try to get something together for the select board for that meeting. We will get it together. Okay. Any more comments on this item? So the next item on our agenda is the chair's update. And which is a couple of things. One is that we need to recruit new volunteers for this committee. Because the number of people are rolling off of it. And so I've reached out to quite a number of people. Has anybody else on the committee reached out to anybody they know or provided any names of potential committee members? And I asked, I asked everybody to try to do that. People who, and there may be people on the line who are watching, which I appreciate, or in the room. We want to get people who have, want to roll up their sleeves and get involved in projects that we want to be doing in the next year, and prioritize this as something that is, towards the top of their priority list. So we can make progress towards the plan. Dan?
Two questions. The term?
The term of the committee appointments are 3 years, extendable to 6, and by asking nicely, with special talents, you can extend it beyond that.
And then
3 years terms.
the other question is skill sets. What are you, given the projects you guys are considering, what sort of skill sets you will?
We're looking for, well, okay. well, I don't have a detailed answer. People that want to communicate with residents. People who want, it's, apply creativity and hard work towards, helping, residents, commercial entities and municipal buildings, be electrified and lower emissions, according to the climate action plan. Now, really, CMLP, Jan, Seti, and, are driving a lot of, the work towards the climate action plan, and we complement them. But I think we're an important part of complementing, what CMLP is doing. On the municipal side, that's where we should be controlling, where the town has some control over what we do. It's about planning, helping the facilities director we haven't mentioned, plan big capital projects. And that's been on hold pretty much in the last, year. Working ideally with schools as well as municipal buildings. And on the commercial side, we haven't done much. I think that, there's many things that this committee could be working on. It's kind of, there are more things we can do than, there is effort to do it. So if it's communication skills, if it's, analytical and not, skills on trying to understand, this versus that and emissions impact, things like that. It's being able to talk to builders and, real estate agents and things like that. There's kind of a wide variety of things we can be doing. So if anybody is interested in this, the standard way to proceed would be to submit a green card to the town. We can talk to people who submit green cards and tell them all about it and, learn, get an idea what their skills, are a good match. And, make a recommendation to the select board, who ultimately is the approver of committee positions. But I'd really like everybody on the committee to think about, people they know, through the groups they associate with, in town, to try to do some recruiting.
So how many people do you anticipate being short on this committee? I know Karen's stepping down, and Gavin's gonna,
I know we need to add 2, and I think we'll need to add 3.
okay,
Now, if 5 people raise their hand and say, I want to be part of that, we can accommodate 2 people that aren't voting members, for example. Anybody can work with this committee, who wants to. Some people come regularly with great suggestions and stuff like that. We wanna, this is all hands on deck in a way. It might be. The other item under this chair's update is that I'm needing to step down as chair. And, I'm hoping that another member of the committee will, be able to step forward. I announced this a month ago, to chair at least for the next couple of months. Because, I'm overtaxed. And I have other things I need to attend to. And I'm wondering whether anybody on the committee would like to talk about it and, potentially put themselves forward. And I think silence is
Since a lot.
uncomfortable, but sometimes necessary.
Well, come on, so Jerry's been chair, I've been chair. I have one more year on committee and don't think it's a good time for me.
And I don't actually know what happens if there is no chair. To the committee, maybe Mark would know.
Or you can always elect a temporary chair, because chairs can be absent from time to time. So you can go, but it's very useful for someone to take the role, even if they maybe agree to just do it to the end of a term or something like that. Were you unable to hear me?
I wasn't.
Maybe somebody could turn up the speaker a little bit.
It's all the way up.
Oh, okay. All I'm
Yeah.
saying, it's possible to
Yeah,
have,
working, we're a little limited with audio.
okay. If anybody's interested in discussing, roles on the committee or has somebody that's curious, I'm happy to talk to them. Just contact me and I'll sit down with you.
Would you consider being chair?
No, I feel like I don't have the background for it, plus I don't have the time, and like, I'm from, when people have meetings during the day, I'm working, so.
Okay.
Some committees choose a co-chair model so they can kind of trade off too, which is also valid. So instead of one person doing it all the time, they might have two people who trade back and forth or share the duty.
Courtney isn't here. So we can't ask her.
What?
Courtney is not here.
Right, she chaired CAB for 2 years, I
Okay,
believe, and was, capably, and, I don't, she's also got a full-time job as well. I intend to stay active. I just need to, I got to a point where taking care of, family member and, other things has gotten to be too much. And of course, we'll face this again, in a couple of months' time. For the following year.
it would make sense if we could find somebody to take over this position and continue.
That would make the most sense. However, there are 3 people that are not at the meeting tonight. I don't think it's fair game to nominate them. But tempted to.
Mike McDonald's not here, Courtney's not here, this is the other person. I'm missing.
Paul has just shown up.
I said he was gonna be late.
We can't rotate the chair among us, can we? Like one person do it 1 month, one person another month.
I think that's, that might be doable. I mean, it's better than not having, an arrangement.
Um,
And it's a good experience. I mean, I chaired CTEC for 2 years. And didn't know how to be a chair when I started. It's more about organizational skills than about understanding, you know, how heat pumps work or something.
Yeah, when I was chair, Kate Hanley was the sustainability director, and I would meet with her every month. And, just talk about things, whatever. And then come up with an agenda, and once once you're in the meetings, you know, making sure everybody gets heard and that not everybody's talking at once, that's basically it.
Right.
But you're regularly meeting with Jen, you're meeting with, right, I mean, there's lots of regular meetings, it seems to me, that are going on a regular basis.
There are a fair number of meetings. I think one can chair the meeting, chair the committee with I intended to be able to spend 8 hours a week. And I have not been able to do that as a chair. Which is more than most people, more time than a lot of people have. I think it's fair to be a chair to have half that amount of time and you know, do the organizational stuff and talk to people on the committee, which I haven't done enough between every meeting, or at least just sort of make sure the committee functions well.
And the other time, I mean, you're organizing house tours, that's time commitment. When we've had various fairs that have happened, which those are time consuming.
Yeah. This time commitment, it's,
But I mean, I'm sure.
he already said it's an emergency. The emergency is worth, you know, I think we're here because we lose sleep over this. And so it's, I'm sorry to get like tough on, but
I also suspect there's ways for people to step in and do jobs. For portions of the job, for example, whoever writes minutes, to be given, we will be the one that submits them or to the town meeting or sets up the agenda. We could take jobs away from the chair that could be done by other people.
right. I mean, I like Paul's suggestion about rotating it better than, you know, for the next, let's say, 3 months. But only if we had some names of people and months is long and then.
Brad, did you say it takes 8 hours a week to be chair?
But that's what I intended to put in.
Say
But
it again?
I haven't been able to do that. I probably put in half that.
Okay, wow.
I mean, my experience it varies. I mean, if you've got something, project outreach like house tours, then you're putting a lot more time.
Right.
But other months when things like that aren't happening, I don't think I would spend 8 hours, maybe 4. I don't know what that says about me, but
No, it's, The commitment is gonna vary, but that's the commitment, what you're describing for the green home tours is the commitment of just being a participant. That,
No, but you're setting it up, you're organizing, and you're finding people.
I'm doing that as a participant, not as a chair.
Well,
I'm
but
expecting,
somebody's found the houses, you know, the homeowners who are willing to do this, and somebody's made a flyer to send out to them, and somebody's doing the advertising, I think that's on you.
that's one of the problems that I'm facing, and that's one of the reasons that this is happening.
Yeah, so basically, you need to delegate.
Chair should be a better delegator. And delegation of volunteer efforts is a talent that, you know, it's not simple. I think there's a lot of there are town committees where people spend more time. Join the planning board or something like that, or the school committee and see how much time, that takes.
Mhm.
I can hop in here and say I would potentially be interested in like a rotating co-chair type role. The only thing is I'm stretched thin a little bit with the solar task force because we're planning on producing a report over the next few months about our long-term plans for solar in town. So that's going to be a pretty big time commitment. But if other people were interested in swapping co-chair depending on the months, I think I need a little bit of time to think about it and look at my schedule. So I can't commit now, but I'd be interested in that.
Thank you, Gavin. That's,
I have a question for Eric. Do you think if it's a rotating chair, it becomes more of a burden on you?
I mean, it slightly complicates things, but I think as long as there's good communication, like clear communication about, you know, I mean, right now, Brad and I coordinate with getting the agenda posted and things like that. So, you know, as long as sort of there's consistency and with that, then I think that would be helpful rather than things changing every month, but I think that's certainly cool, so. And then, you know, I mean, I guess one challenge with that too is just, you know, keeping consistency with, I guess with the priorities of the committee. You know, in terms of the agenda and what we're focusing on each month, and that there's some continuity with that, and, you know, we're keeping things going, but yeah, I mean, people are invested in that, then, yeah, it's not sort of not insurmountable at all. So, yeah, so, yeah, it might take a little more coordination, but we can work.
you can handle it.
You can handle it, okay.
Burdens are us.
We can make it work.
So we have 2 volunteers per month. I could probably take it on for a month, but not this next month, because I'm
You're,
gonna be away for 3 weeks.
okay, so not Janet, do we have someone who could step in for the month of April? The upcoming, meeting.
What day is that meeting?
I should have mentioned that is, sorry. It should be right here at the, on my agenda. Where's my agenda? Upcoming meetings, oh, I didn't update that. It says March 5th. It's gonna be April 2nd.
A second.
The next meeting. Day after Easter Monday and April Fool's Day.
It's the first.
Anybody who could take April 2nd.
Was Paul still looking on his calendar?
Looks that way.
And I would support, whoever steps forward with,
I can do April 2nd, so I can take it over for April and see how it goes. I'm okay for that.
Gavin, you're doing too much.
Yeah, that's good. I'll need a good handoff from you though, Brad. I need a good quarterback handoff if I'm the running back. So
Okay, we're gonna have lunch. Is there anybody who could take May?
Don't be that silent watch, very silent.
May, April 2nd, and then we have May, meeting on May, 7th.
It's June. So, the 4 to 8 hours a week. Like, would that start, like, does it start for Gavin now? Or does it start, after he's chair? Like, does he do it the month of, April, or does he do it starting now in March? Is this 4 to 8 hours a week? You know what I'm saying?
I would say probably March because to prep for the next meeting, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we can leave it up and see after that if anybody wants to do it. We don't have to decide now if no one can commit either.
My problem is I'm going to be teaching through the end of May. And then I'm gone a lot of July and August.
Paul, I think your question gets at, it kind of illustrates why it's difficult to have a rotating chair. I felt that the chair responsibility isn't so much this meeting. You know, a small part of it is putting the agenda together for this meeting and then running the meeting. I think the more role for a chair is to help the committee function as a committee between meetings, and that's when it takes some, that's what takes some time, you know, the other meetings, and stuff. But I think we have to we can limp along and do the best we can.
I can dive deep in head first into the deep end, so I can do April and May.
Jesus.
But then after that, I'll be away on vacation in June, so it'll be more difficult then. But I can commit to these 2 months of April and May, or I guess March up to May.
That's fantastic. But it's we know you're gonna be busy. Of course, you have a 30-hour day as it is.
Well, we're all grateful, Gavin.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
we try to help you out as much as we can. Like if it's really key, there's a meeting and you can't go, ask us and maybe one of us can go or something. And also, Brad's done a great job, but life happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we're really grateful for Brad, for what he's done. And we should, arrange this so there could be so there can be a transition, because we owe that to Brad. And so thank you, Gavin, and I'll, I don't want to commit to anything right now, but, I think we all have to sort of help out. But Gavin really, is it walk the walk? I keep forgetting that expression.
Hopefully that, not talk the talk. We'll see.
So let's tentatively accept Gavin's offer to do the next 2 meetings with the possibility of having someone step in for the second meeting of among people who are not at this meeting. Is that fair? Or do you
Sounds
want
good to me.
plan on 2 months?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you. It's actually Bradford, work.
Okay. Okay, let's go to the Green Home Tour planning. Green Homes Tour planning. And Cheryl and I have been working on this, appreciate the help, and it's coming together. It's I would describe this. The Green Homes Tour is starting so late, it's like leaving it all to the last minute, and then it only takes a minute to do it. But I think it's coming together very well. I have
Turnout
some,
looks good.
what?
Turnout looks good. I looked at your last,
Okay, we have, let me get the, so let's just summarize what we've done so far. I don't, let's see, let's take, 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes on this item, including planning for, how committee members can help on the tours. We met with Janice Setti. That was very useful. And also the energy coaches. There's two energy coaches plus a third sort of energy coach, Ethan, Kim, and Jeff. There's gonna be one of them in each house. So we're gonna do 3 houses this weekend on the 9th. One in Cananton, one in West Concord, and one in Concord. One, I guess it's, you know where that is, but it's in this part of Concord. And, we have made, we had a graphic artist, adapt, images for the tour, who I assume will be sending Erica Bill for that work, but she did it very quickly. And, excellent job. We got promotional material sent to the bridge. So everybody must have seen that. How many people saw the article of the ad in the bridge? Cool. I also sent an article to go with the ad, which they didn't print.
I think that's because there was so much going on with the Ellen Garrison and the school committees and all that. There was so much on that. That's my guess.
Right. And I've asked them to print it this week, but I think I didn't get a response, and I have a feeling the person has retired from the bridge who I sent it to.
Seemed pretty vague in her response.
So I don't know, but the bridge got the most, got a number of people signing up, and then Jan sent out something this morning from
Absolutely.
CMLP, which had a lot of people signing up. And I've been posting to social media and stuff, and I think we got up to, I was hoping we would have 100 signups by the end of the week, and we are at about 45 to 50 right now. They're coming in.
How many houses are actually participating?
So we have 3 houses this weekend, 3 houses the weekend of the 23rd. And you can sign up for 1 or 2 houses on a weekend. You can actually sign up for 3 houses on a weekend, although you have to be in 2 places at once. But they didn't know how to do that. We need people who can accomplish amazing things, right? I'm thinking there might be as many as 15 to 20 visitors at a time. Because some people signed up and said they were bringing 2 people or 4 people or something like that. So there's not going to be lots and lots of hard work to do. But the way I see it going is, we'll have some refreshments. And here's where I could, we could use some help. Since it's featuring induction cooking, Cheryl, do you know whether the library
The
has?
library does not have one, but others have ones that we could borrow theirs. The library doesn't have one.
Okay, so who has it, who do we, get it from?
Well, I could get the one I contacted with, and there's that one, she said we can have, that we can use theirs.
Good.
So
And,
I don't know if we need them in more than one house, so that's the problem, right? I mean, I know that the house, they do not, going on the 23rd, they do not.
Right. I'm mainly worried about that.
Yeah, no, I don't
And
know.
only one needs it,
Oh, they were needed, okay, great, so let me just confirm.
and it goes to, the West Concord home.
Okay,
So I should, and I'm gonna be at that home.
okay, so I will make sure that we get it to,
Right, and so demonstrating a, induction cooking is part of serving up something, and the way, what Mothers Out Front did, at the time for a couple of years ago, and I think we just repeated, is to do chocolate dipped strawberries on the induction stove. And then have some, water and cider and maybe 2 cookies around, for refreshments that we provide to the homeowners. So somebody needs to buy this. And we can submit the bill to, the town, I assume it's gonna be, very small money. And at the chairs meeting, everybody thought it was cool that we were doing green home tours, so that means I think the town supports it. But we do gotta get around to buying the stuff and, I can get around to it.
So that appreciate volunteers, have we been assigned houses yet?
Let me see,
Yes.
The answer is yes. However, I have to, get the, no, I have to find the list here, where did that go?
I have it.
Green home tours, that's the, yeah,
Sherry had to get off this coming.
yeah, so I assigned, yeah, we sort of said Cheryl and Jerry would be at Laura Davis's house.
He said Jerry won't be there. Is Jerry?
No, Jerry is
Jerry
not
sent an
there.
email, he misunderstood his
Racing Jerry.
emails, he can come the following weekend, but not this weekend. Right, Jerry?
Yeah, I got my dates mixed up. So I'm good for the 23rd.
Yeah.
This weekend, not so much.
Right.
Yeah, right. So. Did you say you could do one of the days?
I could do either of them.
Okay. So, Karen, would you like to do, you could be with, why don't you go with Cheryl and go to Laura Davis's place? Because they're gonna have the biggest, turnout. Eric, are you gonna stop it? Are you
Yeah, it should be, yeah, I think I mentioned before, I should be available this weekend, for the 9th.
Yeah.
Day and 9th, I'm not sure about the 23rd.
okay?
But yeah, wherever if you might want me or need me on the 9th, let me know.
Okay, you could do, Kim Slack's place. I
Okay.
can, and that would be Eric. And then,
Yeah, Brad, I'd emailed you that I can do the 23rd. I might be able to do this weekend as well. So do you have, I'm not sure I got an email.
I got you at the high tech home on the 23rd,
Okay.
the Tom Harvey and Cece King's place.
Okay. Was that an email? I don't think I received that.
Oh, I didn't,
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And Paul, are you available on either weekend to stop into one of these homes? Or who else? We have Jerry out there.
It doesn't have to be committee members to.
Doesn't have to be committee members.
So.
I just want to say, I think we have committee members at every home.
Yeah, we need to make
Just,
There's a volunteer right here.
Well, it's just, while we're at it, so Did you,
And
and I also emailed Jen, while you were gone, Jen wanted to make sure that she didn't see anything in the ads regarding,
the EVs.
the EVs, but I suggested that we did want them, is that correct? Is that what? you-
Yeah, well, we're happy with them, and I talked to her about it.
Okay, okay, fine.
So she's good with that. And then, Bill, who's on the call, volunteered to be in the house, and, I slotted him in at, Jeff Iden's house, where I'm gonna be this weekend in West Concord. I'll send you the details. Really appreciate it. If anybody else out there would like to, hang out at a green home, Dan, you've seen green homes before.
What time is it?
It's 2 to 4,
2 to 4.
which really means showing up a quarter to 2 and making sure, helping make sure things are cleaned up by 4:05 or something like that. But I think there's not gonna be that much to do. We want to keep people from, shoplifting at the homes and bring,
Smoking cigarettes.
it's, and answering questions and representing the cool stuff. We have, then, good.
That's on the senior coaches.
Mark, if you want to stop by one of the cool homes, we'd love to have you. And
So the general setup is there'll be 3 homes each
Yeah.
2 weekends, and we'd like to have 2 folks at each home.
oh, it's really 1 or 2.
Okay.
I think we're gonna be fine. So I worked out, I wrote down, I sketched out a quick agenda. We made a registration form, a Google form, that when you, if you follow the link, and if you don't know how to get to the link, go to coolerconcord.org and look at the bottom of the page. You can get to the event posting there. Click a link to sign up for a home. And so you sign up, but people who sign up to go to a home, it's an hour per slot, and it's not gonna take a full hour, but you can go to 2 homes, so you can drive across town, go to a second home at 3 o'clock. The reason we slotted it by times rather than just show up whenever you want is we just want to be able to control the flow. And I figured we'd have 5 or 10 minutes just for meeting and greeting your neighbors, introductions by people there, and finding out what the people are interested in who come. Because that's important. You want to talk about stuff. Let's hear from them what they're interested in. Why do they come? I'll write this up and send it out. 10 to 15 minutes for the homeowner tour. And I'm trying to. The homeowner tour should be brutally honest about, how the home is working for them and what they did, how hard it is to turn their heat pumps on or whatnot, but I think all these people are quite happy with what they've installed. But we want the homeowner tour to give the experience of what it is to live in their electrified homes. And then, after that, 5 to 10 minutes total for the energy coach and the EV specialist to talk about, CMLP's, offerings. And the fact that you can get one of those coaches to come to your home and talk to you about your situation and get over your fear of heat pumps, maybe. How do you get a quote, because CMLP has this great resources, the whole idea of these tours is to keep these people busy. I think, and to get, build community around, electrifying homes. So this doesn't add up to a full hour of stuff. But I think, you know, probably the whole home tour will take, you know, with all the Q&A and presentations should take about 40 minutes.
I think you'll, probably not have any problem filling the hour.
I don't, I mean, I think people have lots of questions.
Yeah,
and I
questions,
think-
will be more questions.
Good.
I think that's, there are lots of different people.
Phil, you had a question.
I'm all set. I got the answer.
Okay. Good.
So I wanted to mention too that there has been promotion going out through the town social media.
Yeah, I did see that eventually.
Yeah, there's Facebook and Twitter, X, and then news and notes, and I think Donna was trying to get on the calendar as well, and then she's got some regular sort of automated updates to push it out for the second date too.
Okay, great.
The second date.
Great. I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's gonna be a good event.
And then maybe you mentioned this, but I think so there's gonna be a heat pump coach and an EV specialist at each location, right? Okay.
Right. I mean, I wasn't really sure whether we need the EV specialist, because people, you know, see EVs on the road all the time. It's sort of like, but maybe they need to talk to somebody to get over the fear of charging their vehicle or something like that.
Can't hurt.
I have a question about what kind of cars are out there, I mean,
Yeah,
which,
And they put some knowledge about rebates and all that sort of stuff that people don't really understand.
good.
there's lots of questions about rebates, not just local rebates, but
Tax credits and
tax
all
credits,
sorts of
yes, and
things.
we got state, federal, and local.
And then one of the good things that's already come out is that Kim Syquin wrote a solar FAQs. The solar is part of greening your home. Some of these homes have solar, some don't. And right now they don't have a solar coaching program, but he was worried about what am I gonna say? So he wrote up some FAQs about solar, and it's pretty good. So I'm hoping we'll also kind of run out of time if we're doing this, but it would be good to have, maybe I could ask Dan Ginsberg to do this. FAQs on how do these things affect your home value? And I don't think there's any really good studies on it. But, because I think a lot of people think that, like, I don't want to do something stupid and put something in my home that maybe will make it harder to sell the home, or maybe I need to pay back in the next 5 years. But actually, I think a lot of the things that people are doing in homes are going to pay back when they sell the home.
You and I can talk afterwards.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Yeah, and I'll talk with you about the joining in person.
Cool. Anyway, that's pretty much what I got on the Green Home Tour. Any questions?
I mean, National Grid just also today said that something about making greening homes.
Yeah.
So,
I just saw that for Middlesex Savings Bank, that they're offering heat loans that they didn't used to offer. And that's making me think we should connect them into Concord heat loans, which we don't have. You have to be a Mass Save community, get heat loans, can't get them here.
What kind of loan are you talking about?
I'm talking about what, let's suppose you were interested in electrifying your home, putting in heat pumps, but you didn't have the cash to do it right now. You, in a Mass Save community, where you buy your electricity from National Grid or Eversource, you can get a zero interest loan that's to help you do the project, which we cannot get here. And then that affects a lot of people, you know, it's sort of like balancing out, even if you can afford to do it, it makes it a lot easier for people to do it, and a lot of people, this is a barrier. Phil,
Yeah, I see that I'm assigned to Range Road. And I see it's gonna be, heat pumps and EV charging, so I'm familiar with that. What exactly do I do when I show up at 2?
could you say that last question again?
What exactly, I'm all set to show up at this house on Range Road. What do I'm gonna introduce myself to the homeowner and then just be available to ask questions that,
Yeah, your duties are not very heavy. They're to, meet your neighbors, talk about, the elements of a green home, with people. You can do some recruiting for Cockerton. You can do some, I'm just suggesting, it's a free country. And treat it like you would, but however you want.
I heard something about refreshments. Is that, am I supposed to provide refreshments for the homeowner?
Well, yeah, I need to work out a kind of a plan that, we need to work out and send out to the homeowner so everybody kind of knows what's going. It's not all completely loosey-goosey. But, these aren't gonna be too hard. Maybe I can run the plan by you and you can sanity check it.
Sure.
Okay. So let's move on, because I want to get to other stuff and we're gonna run out of time. Working group updates. Now Gavin is his own working group on the solar task force. Eric, do you have a little box on that screen there? Bugging me. Can't see the people behind it.
Can you see me now?
Wants to be updates.
Yeah, Gavin.
Okay, cool. This will be brief. So, on Thursday, we're meeting with the Finance Committee regarding the article and certain bond issuances with the warrant article for the solar developments. And as a reminder, we're going ahead with, as of now, with 2 solar developments. One on the old town landfill, right near Route 2, expanding Concord-owned solar right next to the existing solar that's there on the slope. And the second site that was okayed by and supported by the school committee was the rooftop of CCHS. So those 2 sites, as of now, are we're going to be going ahead with. We are trying to get some final numbers on the landfill site and some final okays from the school committee, but it's looking promising. So we'll see if the finance committee supports it on Thursday, and going ahead for the town meeting, hopefully we'll be asking for support and money for these 2 projects. However, this money is paid for by ratepayers, not taxpayers. So this is coming out of the CMLP budget. So there's no direct impact, or we're not asking for any money from the town, so to speak. So that's it. That's it for an update, and kind of in a holding pattern right now until some final okays ahead of the town meeting.
Yeah. Is anybody on the committee we're looking at next sites like 2229 Main Street or anything?
Yeah, so great question. So I should have added this as well, but so yeah, so these are the short-term sites that we're hoping to get accepted in the town meeting, and then hopefully get them to be shovel ready within a shorter time span. Then there are some medium-term and longer-term sites that we're planning on identifying in our longer-term report, which will be released when our committee, I guess, signs off, probably late summer or early fall after a year together. So there are some ideas about new potential sites, new solar, new batteries, but we're still in the process of analyzing the best options right now. I can give you a sneak peek that there's one of them that looks potential like a good option is the wastewater treatment plant right near the Concord River, right there alongside the Reformatory Branch Trail. We're working with Alan Cathcart. We're communicating with him about that. That site was identified in previous studies for putting solar on the beds of the wastewater treatment plant, the northern beds. So that's that. There's also private solar going in town behind the meter solar over at Baker Avenue, some of the developments there. So that's not related to the town, the municipal solar goals per se, but it's important for the town to have more solar and battery storage there as well.
Is that just rooftop?
I believe it's just rooftop. Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head because they haven't sent over the full plans as far as I've seen.
Good. Thanks.
Mhm.
So Courtney's not here, so we can't really talk about the metrics unless Eric, do you want to make comments about that?
No, I mean, other than we're getting close, as you mentioned before, we're trying to have numbers and data available before the town meeting. So hopefully we'll have some data soon. We're double checking with MAPC about updates they're doing to the protocol and what that might mean. So I'm in communication with them about that. And then just working on trying to finalize a little bit of data that's left, some waste data from the town. But I think we have most of the larger numbers in place, and I think we're in good shape to have something soon.
Okay. Residential engagement, I guess we'll talk about the birthday event. Talked to Laura about it this morning. And she said, what does your committee want to do? So, and we don't have to decide that now, but that means what messages do we want to get across? Do we want to have a table? Do we, so Karen, you did meet with them.
I have not, not been during the day when I was working.
That you had once.
I spoke with her and I went to Mother's Out.
Oh, the Mother's Out front page.
We didn't get around to talking about
Okay.
this, but, yeah, I'm happy to help out. There's help, Laura?
Well, there's Laura there,
She joined us.
just in time.
Do you want me to give a little update, Brad, or? So Laura Davis, 330 Garfield Road. And just to give a brief update, this is the Cooler Concord Climate Festival. We ran it once in 2022 and it was a huge success, in large part to Jerry and Doug's hard work on it. And so we're running it again. It's going to be, I keep calling it like Ag Day for Climate. So we're going to have tables, invite all the nonprofits, lots of different groups to come and feature different climate actions. And so what we had in 2022 is a lot of different departments and some of the town committees came and participated. The Pollinator Health Advisory Committee, for example, came and helped with a pollinator activity. So if this committee wanted to have its own table, that would be appropriate, and you guys could decide specifically what information you want to share with the community, whether that be information. I do encourage you to think of something interactive because we don't want it to just be a fair of brochures. So thinking about some way to engage people in some kind of an interactive activity that would lead to discussion and reflection. So that's my little pitch for it. It will be April 20th, which is a Saturday, on the library's front lawn from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. So I encourage you to mark your calendars, 12 to 4 on the 20th.
Can you remind me, how does it interact with what's going on in this, the umbrella?
That's a great question. So the umbrella is having a concurrent event, which is going to be very symbiotic. They're doing a wonderful exhibit called Tapped In, where they have partnered artists with scientists to come up with a number of art installations. So they'll be having that exhibit happening. They're going to be bringing in students from the schools to give their parents tours of the exhibit on that day. They're going to have a free family event in the afternoon. And the day will conclude after our festival has finished and after a bunch of activities have concluded at the umbrella with a fashion show, an eco fashion show, at 4:30 p.m. So we're trying to coordinate all of our activities so that they flow nicely between the two spaces, and talking about how we co-promote the two events. So their activities are also happening in the afternoon. So the events are happening concurrently and collaboratively.
Really?
That sounds great.
That sounds great.
Yeah, this is gonna, it's gonna be good. So what are some thoughts of, on what, I mean, we should think individually and together about what our committee wants to do, besides recruiting some new members. A learning exercise about the climate action plan and what it involves, so maybe, I'm just off the top of my head, an interactive version of what we have to send to the select board about how do we achieve our climate goals? How many homes, you know?
We build a little town, little houses, and we start putting stickers on them. We have some sort of participating somehow in electric vehicles, or I'm just giving an idea of the view. I don't know.
Okay, that's cool.
Sort of showing the image, what percentage are participating, which percentage aren't.
Yeah, we talked about that while in the meeting, we had last week with Laura and others. I was kind of mentioning that at the end, that it might be neat to have some kind of, graphic, whether it's a poster where, or, something that people could, you could have a list of columns of, actions, and people could put a little sticker on things that they've done or are intending to do, just as kind of a graphic, so that people walk by, they would maybe say, oh, wow, I didn't realize that many people had heat pumps here in Concord, or EVs, or, here's something that I'm planning to do, or, so there might be some fun way to visualize.
You could have it color coded, so what I've done is one color, what I would like to do is another, but I'm thinking about vaguely.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be a third.
Yeah. Okay. Will, CMLP and heat pump coaches they'll have something.
I'm gonna be reaching out to them to see what kind of presence they hopefully will have.
Because it's good if maybe we should be next door and, but that connects the dots.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll talk to Dan about that and see, what kind of presence they will.
Just brainstorming here, maybe we could do, well, I think the climate action plan is a really great data resource as well. I'm into the data, so it'd be interesting if maybe we do like a trivia type thing where we could have people come up and guess like what percentage of Concord's emissions like come from transportation, something like that. And then people could guess, and then it shows what result it is, so they can learn about our town and things like that. That could be cool.
Okay, yeah, cool. What about on vulnerability? All favorite topic. Can you do a happy, fun thing about climate vulnerability, or is it just not?
you know, it's, I'm trying to think of something that's interactive.
Could show the floodplain maps.
No, we certainly show the floodplain maps, right?
Yeah.
I mean, show the temperature projections. I mean, there's a lot of data we can show. But I was
Well,
thinking,
I heard that, I think that maybe Public Works or somebody has a watershed model, like an interactive watershed model, where you can, you know, pour water and see where it goes. And
That's cool.
I think if Public Works,
that's awesome.
that, or we can get that, then I need to talk to them too, but I was gonna approach them to see if they wanted to be there to talk about stormwater and connect it to the stormwater utility, which I'm sure they would like to be promoting since this is just before town meeting.
Here's what you have if you have a atmospheric river. It's like that.
So I'll talk to them too and
I don't know.
see if that's an option.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Laura, so is the focus on all things climate for this fair, or is it just specifically heat pumps and heating and cooling?
It is all things.
Okay.
So yeah, just some examples from 2022. We had folks doing, and I would say it's not just climate, it is also sustainability stuff. So we had a lot of pollinator stuff. We had the EV coaches there with a couple of EVs for people to sit in, not test ride, just to see and sit in. We had Concord bikes there with, you know, a bike station. We had induction cooking demonstration. We had lots of different things. So really,
Cool.
it's all encompassing. It's meant to be all encompassing. And for what it's worth, my 2 cents is I think that this committee bringing something about where the emissions are coming from, some kind of a guessing game. I'm always amazed at how little understanding people have of where our emissions come from. So for what it's worth, I love your idea, Gavin.
I'll take any praise. Maybe I personally love my e-bike, so maybe you could have like a little corral of e-bike test rides. It's a little.
I am running it, so there will be an e-bike petting.
Nice, good. That's great. Just gotta herd some cats with letting people ride e-bikes. Be careful with.
Okay.
Laura, while you're on here, can I ask you, the induction cooktop that your organization has, how do we go about getting that for this Saturday?
Why don't you follow up with me offline? Brad has all my contact information. And
Right, I will tell you. I just thought since you were here, I'd ask you. Okay.
I mean, I have it in my house, so we'll just need to figure out which house it needs to go to and how it gets there. So, yes, I may have 2. I definitely have 1, may have 2.
We only need 1, but thank you.
Well, now, do we need to bring a pot as well? We might need to bring 1 plus a pot, but
I have a pot.
not any pot works.
I know, but I have an induction cooktop, so I know how it works.
So Cheryl started with the pot, the cook pot. Good. So I think we've got some time for the fair. I liking some of the ideas. Let's try to do some brainstorming and, you know, next meeting is gonna be the beginning of April, so we should kind of be at the point of, making some decisions and, getting stuff together. Then. We have a few minutes for any public comments that people want to make.
You want me to talk about the meeting last night in Bedford?
Oh, yes, I wanted to hear about that.
It was a presentation from the Massport people and the developers who want to put in all these projects. And there was a big contingent of opposition there. There was this demonstration outside the building, before, again, 42 people went out there with banners and stuff. But I think the actual Massport people crept in another door so they avoided it. But, there were so many holes in their, you know, their plans. So, I mean, number one, they say, well, we're putting in fewer hangars, but no, actually, they're gonna store the same number of planes because the hangar just gonna be big, I don't know. That was one. They talk about ferry flights, which are defined by a plane leaving and then coming back to the same airport within 18 hours or something. Up to 350 miles away, but they don't know whether those flights actually have passengers on them or not, because there's no benefits on those private planes.
Yeah,
And the whole idea is that they're not going to increase the number of flights because they're going to decrease the number of ferry flights. And somebody asked, well, there's more storage capacity. Well, so there'll be ferry flights going from Haskell to another, you know, the kind they're talking about, which are planes which don't carry passengers. But it's all a myth because they don't know how many ferry flights there truly are. They're putting a new fuel storage tank in, which is expected to have 1 to 2 loads a week. And like 10,000, I don't remember the numbers, but it's like 10,000 gallons per truckload. And that's extra fuel, so if flights aren't going to increase, why do they need more fuel? I mean, there's so many holes. And then, I think the highlight of the evening was Mike Barrett got up to talk. And he just lambasted them, I think is the best word to use. He would just said, you know, there's a climate emergency. Do you know what you're doing? Don't you have children? Don't you care? I mean, he was just,
good for him.
oh, yes, he was really loud. Directed, and Stein McChalder was there too. So they gave speeches. Pamela was there in the audience as well, so.
Oh, good.
There's a lot of people there. And maybe there were 2 or 3 people who actually might be interested in the expansion for themselves, but they were definitely small minority, but they're a small minority anyway.
Nobody had signs that say, I fly private jets?
No. But somebody else, well, you know, they talk about serving a diverse community, and somebody said, well, the average salary in Massachusetts is $50,000. Do you serve people of that category? And the answer was, well, you might not want this, but we do have the medevac helicopters. So I was like, if you really want to fly in a medevac helicopter,
Well,
I mean, it was just such a stupid answer.
yeah, so is there a sense, do you know when a final decision is made?
The DEIR report is coming out this month. There's also a webinar tomorrow, and I know I got an email about it. And I trashed it because I wasn't going to be able to attend. But if I can resurrect it, I can send it to you people. But
Was it from Alex?
once you have the DEIR report, then you have the opportunity to respond to it
Okay,
and voice your comments. But because Massport is set up so that it has no legislative oversight, you know, the governor appoints the people on the Massport committee, but she really, you know, she doesn't have a say at what they do. And it was set up, you know, way back
yeah,
in the 1950s when, you know, air travel was expansion. So, and they, they didn't want a lot of NIMBYism, I suppose, I don't know. But, it's difficult because Massport is independent, autonomous entity.
Okay,
They need to advertise those more because I went to the meeting prior, but I didn't know about this one.
well, let's send, if there's a webinar tomorrow night, let's send, something around to the committee.
I'll send something out
If
to
you
the
can,
committee.
that would be great.
But they should just know that there's, there's probably a broader community.
There
Community is
is.
interested, it's just that it's hard to. Put this one about naming middle school, was on that one last night, there's just so much going on.
Well, that's true.
It's crazy, but I mean, it's on that one, I certainly would have wanted to.
So private jet expansion, spjd.org.
Okay.
I don't know if they're making
Okay.
So let's move on, I want to get out of here.
Right.
I see that Pamela has a comment.
Just a short one, Pamela Concord Green, and that is that it was quite clear that they were being very nice because they knew we had zero power over them. And they have absolutely no intention, not just of doing what we ask, but of even answering the questions, the pointed questions about who gets served and how many person miles expanded of expensive private jets there are. The only way we can stop it is by pressuring the governor. And I think we ought to do that. We ought to really lobby her because she could stop it.
Well,
Maybe.
I'm not, that's a maybe, because,
Yes, but there is no other way. They're not going there. It doesn't matter what kind of environmental review they do. It's going to be all they need to do. It doesn't matter what kind of justification they have. They have the justifications to do it. They're not going to respond to us. It's clear.
Okay.
well, I mean, the governor could put pressure on them, but she doesn't actually have legislative.
I think she does. She can inform Massport not to go along with it, not to go through with it.
She can pressure them, she can pressure them.
Okay. Any other comments, public comments before we adjourn? And if not, I really appreciate everybody coming.